The recording equipment is on. Anyone that's participating by WebEx, please keep your microphone muted.
Sheila, just for you.
Order in court will rise. Court is in session. Please be seated.
Thank you very much. We got everybody safely seated here.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon.
Sorry, so good afternoon. Are you folks in the same bubble there in the last row?
Yeah.
We're trying to keep people about 6 feet apart if you don't live together. Sorry about that. It's part of the rules. Sure. Why don't you know what? There's a yeah. There you go. Okay. Thank you very much. And who have we got? We've got everyone's connected on WebEx.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good morning or good afternoon, Mr. Leung, Mr. Bautista.
Yes. I think we're here for me to make an application, Your Honor. And,
okay. Well, before we do that, I do have some opening comments. So I invite you. Why don't we, Mr. Leung? I'm sorry. If you want to sit at that table, and we'll have Mr. Bautista sit at that table. How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that going to affect your you can move wherever you need to be as long as you're at 2 different tables, okay?
Yes,
thanks so much. Well, I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this application to consider the motion to enroll Irvin Bautista as a member of the Law Society of Alberta. As council know here, in Alberta we're very fortunate to have preserved individual court ceremonies to enroll students and members of the Law Society. Alberta is one of the last jurisdictions in Canada to continue these separate and personal enrollment ceremonies. Other jurisdictions, like the Philippines process, are group calls where all of the class in different intervals are brought together, or all of the admittees in different intervals are brought together to be admitted. And while it fulfills the legal obligations of having someone called to the bar, it doesn't permit our opportunity to truly celebrate the accomplishments of the applicant who's going to join the profession here today. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who have come here today and made a special effort to join us. I know this is June 30th and theoretically restrictions are being removed tomorrow, but I can assure you that from the court's perspective, the care we're taking to ensure that people are safe in the court will continue for at least a few more months into the fall, and so the restrictions continue to be an important part of ensuring the safety and welfare of everyone who attends the courthouse. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. Bautista's wife, Maureen Bautista. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here today, and thank you as well for your service as an essential member of the healthcare team here. I understand from Mr. Bautista you work in healthcare and you've been working so very hard in the last several months, so thank you. The last year and a half, so thank you so much. I'm also pleased to welcome Mr. Bautista's parents and sisters who've made the huge commitment of joining us from Manila at 3 a.m. in the morning. Good morning to Mom and Dad, Mrs. Shirley and Mr. Benjamin Bautista, and to Mr. Bautista's sisters, Colleen, Karen May, and Jessamine. And thank you for joining us. It's very special. There's not a lot of things that have turned out to be silver linings of COVID, but I must say that having WebEx in the courtroom and permitting people to attend from out of Alberta has been a real positive development, and it allows us to celebrate for Mr. Bautista far more widespread. I shared with Mr. Bautista in our discussions before today that while this is a formal court proceedings, I am prepared to depart from the strict court rules. And so I see Mr. Bautista took me up on my offer, and that we have photographs and video recording, which I'm pleased to permit for this kind of ceremony. Now, Mr. Leung, I'd invite you to make your application that brings us here today.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've never done this before, so hopefully there aren't too many hiccups. It does strike me as odd that I'm going to be making an application for the most experienced lawyer in my firm to be called to the bar. But here we go. I understand that Mr. Bautista was first trained in the Philippines, where he practiced for over 8 years, doing some criminal, some civil, some labor, and the last 5 years were on the corporate solicitor end as in-house counsel and doing a lot of property work. He had to go through NCA, of course, to be called to the bar here, and I understand that that was very important to him because the law and being a lawyer is part of his identity. Of course, he did his own immigration application to come to Canada. Both his and his wife's, I understand, but submitted it was good work because here he is. And so we put him to work on over 30 immigration files since. Advised that he's done good work on visitor visas, work permits, citizenship applications, and refugee hearings. After he came over, he was with Alberta Council for around 2 years, drafting pleadings to exchange and correspondence. And in January 2020, he signed on with Axon Law for his articles. He came to us alongside Mr. Treenan, who was counsel from that firm. And he had an unusual article in a number of ways, not the least of which is the duration. It's been about a 1.5-year article. Part of this was due to the change in, from CPLED to PrEP, the different legal education courses. And I understand that he didn't fail any modules, which is a lot better than me because I failed 3 of them. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a little bit ahead of me at this point. Of course, the pandemic, as you referenced, Your Honor, has been a challenge for us all. On top of the challenge of learning Canadian law and Canadian procedure was constantly changing on him in the courts. And certainly it's an adjustment for him to come from a country where there are no jury trials to sitting second chair on top of mine and obsessing over eyebrow raises with me for a week. So we've been able to give him a wide practice experience. I said in my own protocol that it takes a village to raise a child and a lawyer. Certainly he's had some exposure to criminal law through me. Immigration work has been supervised by Mr. Azar Khan. Family from Mr. Chung and Mr. Morris, who's joining us through WebEx. Civil from Mr. Treenan. And of course, he's a hands-on guy, hands-on learner. He did his own immigration work. Once he learned some real estate here, he did his own real estate transaction. And he learned to prepare desk divorces as well, but hopefully he won't be doing his own divorce. Oh no. He's also a humble guy. We offered him a full office once, and he deferred giving it up to a more senior member of the office. He's polite, he's a team player, he's taking the doing docket and the scrambliness, which sometimes comes with that. And I've been advised that the Crown has clocked him at 11 Your Honors a minute. And that's the first time I think anybody's brought too much politeness to my attention. That's the work. He doesn't talk about himself too much at work, but I understand that he's been a part of JCI, Junior Chamber International, a youth leadership organization for a long time, which is funny because we don't actually know how old he is. Various members of the firm have gotten various answers, but I think he's under 40 somewhere. We know he likes to eat. We also know that he likes to watch videos of people eating large amounts of food. We're told that his wife keeps trying to put him on diets. Mr. Treenan keeps making him break them. I suspect we'll be breaking them shortly back at the firm, but we'll see. He's also, as I understand, has an interest in photography, as he's taken court up on his offer to videograph proceedings. Likes photographing people and apparently himself. I understand he's an aspiring social media star. And that work is keyed up an exhibit. If you wouldn't mind clicking to that. Yes, this is his YouTube channel. And just for the court's knowledge, a mukbang is a video where you consume cold of food for the viewing pleasure of your audience. So he's got 100 subscribers. We hope there'll be many, many more. We're not sure how many of those views are himself, watching himself eat. But either way, he's giving back to the mukbang community. I think he's got 70-odd videos and all posted. So, back to business. I was told to keep my comments brief. Section 42 of the legal, 40 subsection 2 of the Legal Profession Act states that the executive director shall approve the enrollment of a person admitted as a student at law under subsection 1 if the person proves to the executive director's satisfaction in accordance with the rules that the person is of good character and reputation, is 18 years of age or older, has served under articles as required by the rules, and has passed a bar admission examination. Now, I'm confident that Mr. Bautista is of good character and reputation, and certainly acts on law where he will be remaining. I'm slightly less confident, but don't have a reasonable doubt that he's 18 years or older. His YouTube account does make out a love of Avril Lavigne and the Backstreet Boys, and kids these days don't appreciate that kind of classical music. He has served under lengthy articles, and he's passed the prep course. So, in light of all that, I am pleased, very pleased to make an application that he be admitted to the Law Society of Alberta.
Thank you, Mr. Leung. When you were asked to keep your comments brief, sir, it was really an effort to have the comments be the normal length of time. So,
I do like this out of my
so I just want to commend you on doing an excellent job. Thank you, Mr. Leung. And considering the submissions you've made, I'm very pleased to grant your application here today. And I'm so pleased that the firm has been able to come in support of your application. And so, Mr. Bautista, I'd invite you to come forward now and take the oath required of you as a new barrister and solicitor in the province of Alberta. And you're welcome to stand wherever the camera wants you to stand. And I'd invite you to take your mask off. When you're speaking, you don't have to wear your mask, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. I.
No, you don't need to hold it. We'll catch that at the end, okay?
Your Honor. I, Irving Bautista of the City of Edmonton in the province of Alberta, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law, that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to law the office of barrister and solicitor. I will, as a barrister and solicitor, conduct all causes and matters faithfully and to the best of my ability. I will not seek to destroy anyone's property. I will not promote suits upon frivolous pretenses. I will not pervert the law to favor or prejudice anyone, but in all things will conduct myself truly and with integrity. I will uphold and maintain the interest and that of the public according to the law in force in Alberta. So help me God.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bautista. Please have a seat here. I'll just finish the paperwork. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, Mr. Bautista, I'm pleased to welcome you as Alberta's newest member of the Law Society, and now entitled to practice law in Alberta as a barrister and solicitor. And it struck me when you rose to give your oath that I've never seen you in person. So I didn't know how tall you were, because everybody is this tall on WebEx, right? So it's great to see you. Today you become a member of a strong and growing profession. This growth is driven by population and commerce of the province, and it's driven by the immigration of hardworking, dedicated individuals who make a choice to come to Canada and to Alberta to invest their energy, their time, their professionalism to create a better future for themselves and others. And as Alberta enjoys that growth, the need for lawyers grows. So it's important that this profession welcomes, I'm giving you young, okay? This profession welcomes young, intelligent, ethical, and committed lawyers like you to the bar to ensure the proud tradition of this profession is sustained. It's part of my practice at bar admission ceremonies to ensure that all of those present understand the long journey that new lawyers take to achieve or to become members of the profession. And Mr. Leong's outlined some of the background, but I wanted to talk about how you've demonstrated extraordinary commitment to becoming a member of the legal profession here in Alberta, and to discuss a little more deeply the several challenges that you have to overcome that are put in place for lawyers who apply to become a member from other legal jurisdictions. I just had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Bautista in preparation for today's ceremony, and I shared with him, and I'll share with all of you today, that prior to being appointed as a judge, I was senior counsel with the Law Society of Alberta. And so for over 10 years I was involved with discipline, prosecuted lawyers for professional misconduct, dealt with challenges to the National Committee on Accreditation for new applicants. And so I had an opportunity to understand the principle, the philosophy, and the importance of the structure for regulation in the province of Alberta. And I think I know, not as well as you, Mr. Bautista, but better than most, the challenges that you had to face to become a lawyer. Now, the Philippines has a proud and strong, committed legal profession, and I've had the privilege of admitting other transfer applicants who earned their law degree and were first called in the Philippines. I know its history is, legal history is founded in Spanish and U.S. or American jurisprudence. And that's part of the issue of the accreditation, is that the Philippines is not part of the common law jurisdiction. And so while you have demonstrated a professionalism and an understanding of the legal system in the Philippines, the whole accreditation process is to enhance and complete your education and preparation so you can, so the Law Society and society in general is satisfied that you can meet the standards expected of lawyers to serve the public in Alberta. And of course you've met all those criteria. I want to touch on something Mr. Leong said in terms of you being clocked at 11 Your Honors in a minute. And it's a very interesting comment, because one of the things I shared with Mr. Bautista when I met with him is that he struck me as one of the most professional lawyers to appear before the court, and one who truly understood the respect, the structure. It's not personal respect for the judge, but it's a recognition of the respect for the process and the shown by the lawyer in the way he conducts himself. That slips from time to time in the provincial court, and its nature is a rough and tumble court. It's a court where people are moving fast and have to be many places at once. And I have to say, during the pandemic, one of the great casualties of professional conduct, in my view, has been the standard of advocacy we've seen of counsel through WebEx. I think sometimes it feels like you're just sending it in, and that's exactly how it appears. And so I would not have recognized you at saying 11 Your Honors a minute, but I certainly would have recognized you and appreciate your recognition of the structure of the relationship between lawyers and judges. And that's important for the public to understand, that this is a structure where lawyers are obligated to represent their clients within a legal system where respect needs to be shown for the court. Things like standing for the court, gowning for the court, recognizing the court with words and comments. It's not a personal compliment to the judge, but what it does is reinforce the role of legal advocacy and professionalism in the administration of law. And it's clear to me that your training through your work in the Philippines has put you ahead of many who appear before the courts in Alberta. So I want to talk though a bit about how you got here. I did have a chance to go through, and I'm sure everybody knows, but I think it's worthwhile talking about it again, that your call to the Integrated Bar of the Philippines occurred in May of 2008, when you were 12, I guess, or something, but anyway, when you were, and we talked a bit about, and I think it's a really interesting cultural difference in the Philippines, and it's one I learned through other bar admission ceremonies I've done, is the incredible social pressure of the examination process in the Philippines. and the involvement of the fraternities and the parade to the exams and the pressure that's on every applicant, the status you achieve if you're successful, but the social pressure that's put on you through the ceremony and procession attached simply to the exam. I've heard it described before, and you and I talked about it again, Mr. Bautista. You talked about how you worked on an inner peace or confidence that you were ready when you got on that bus and went to that hotel, and you were ready to do the exams, and you had confidence in your preparation. I can't even imagine the pressure on individuals in the environment I've heard described to me, but you passed it on your first effort in 2008 in the Philippines, which is exceptional. So in the Philippines, when you're doing your bar admission, or the Juris Doctorate achievement is essentially the bar admission. They're kind of wrapped up together in the Philippines, and the pass rate is a very low percentage. So where our pass rate for the admission program may be something like 95%, we're looking at a significantly lower pass rate in the Philippines. And so you overcame that barrier or check-in point on your very first effort. And what followed then is you became an associate lawyer, and Mr. Leung has talked about your different experience with firms. Associate lawyer with Villanueva and Associates, and then associate counsel in 2009 for 2 years with the new San Jose Builders in Quezon City. Moved on to be legal counsel with Aquitone Drug House in Manila for a year following that, and then finally for the last 6 years of your career in the Philippines with chief legal counsel to the Capita Rise Development Corporation. And the reason I wanted to take a minute to talk about that is that's a great resume unto itself. So you had achieved the role of chief legal counsel in the Philippines, where your sisters have achieved all sorts of success and are serving the society there, where your parents are located, and then you and your wife made the decision to emigrate to Canada, knowing that you would face a series of challenges, but expecting there would be opportunities to serve and opportunities for yourself here that you were looking for that may not present themselves in the Philippines. And you took all that in stride, and that's the lesson I take from reviewing your resume and from having an opportunity to meet you and to observe your practice. But think about this. For the rest of us who haven't had to deal with immigrating into a new country to join a profession, moving from the position of chief legal counsel for 6 years to working at a food counter in a galvanizing profession at Tim Hortons. So for the first year and a half of after your immigration to Canada, it's clear to me that you did what you need to do to get yourself situated to return to the profession that you love. And that's a kind of dedication that is remarkable. And it's a get the job done approach that shows a deep and passionate commitment to professionalism and to the future and to service. And so I think it's important we celebrate that today, because that's part of your journey. In 2019 then you turned to Alberta Council and started your legal research work, and then finally we catch up to when the legal analysis starts. So students with foreign law degrees are required to have their degrees assessed for equivalency to a Canadian law degree through the National Committee on Accreditation. And that's an assessment. The National Committee on Accreditation is a subcommittee of the Federation of Law Societies of Canada, with which I was involved in my past career, and it's a very thorough assessment. Not only is the transcript looked at, but the curriculum of each course is looked at, the comparison results of each student is looked at, and there also is an assessment when you move from a non-common law jurisdiction to a common law jurisdiction of legal differences. So this wasn't simply a case of checking in. This was a case where once your 9 subjects were identified, I recognized that you actually self-taught, had to learn the basic fundamental principles of things like the criminal code, which would be different from the Philippines, constitutional law and the charter, which is different, land titles, which is different. And in all these 9 different subjects cover the whole array of legal differences that you had to learn yourself after law school, after practice, to just become entitled to article. So then that gets you to the opportunity to article once you've got your equivalency, because you've now caught up to graduating from a common law school, and then you have to find articles. Off cycle from law school graduations without a Canadian law degree, which is, I know, a huge barrier for lawyers, foreign-trained lawyers who come to Canada. And it seems to me, from what I know of the Axon Law Group, and it's always a pleasure to deal with any lawyers from that firm, that you did well to find a home with that firm, and I'm grateful to the firm for taking on an articling student. I was also a sole proprietor, so I understand, prior to being at the Law Society, I understand what a major commitment that is for a firm. It's a big promise, it's an investment, and I'm very pleased that the firm took that step, that professional step, to support society and having more lawyers, and to support the profession and providing opportunities. So then we've got you at Axon in January 2020, and by the beginning of March we have a pandemic. And so, of course, that's an added difficulty, and I believe Mr. Young put it very well to say that you then found yourself in shifting criminal procedures, which is, I think, a very flattering description of what was going on. But as the courts scrambled to maintain access to justice at a time where there was a very threatening pandemic, the rules were changing weekly. How do we maintain the courts open to the public? How do we ensure that accused liberties and rights are met while we protect people who otherwise would cluster in the courthouse? And so the solutions weren't perfect, and we're still struggling with the consequences, and that's the environment you had to article in. And so you'd think that might be enough for an equivalent to become a lawyer, but it's not, as you know, but I want to share with everyone. Then we have to lay on another layer of courses and exams, which was called the CPLED, the Canadian Professional Legal Education Division, I think, or Education. Recently there was a shift, and CPLED is no longer offering that course, and now it's a prep course offered by a different organization. So you got to enjoy the first year of that offering during a pandemic, which I'm sure would have been interesting in itself. When you think of all the obstacles that have been placed in your way, Mr. Bautista, I'm so impressed by the manner in which you've performed before the courts. And even after all those steps are completed, Mr. Leong was required to maintain do a certificate as principal to ensure the areas of study were covered, and then the executive director of the Law Society has to confirm that a student has maintained the character threshold, and that's not an empty process either. And I know from experience that there are students who go through all of that and still aren't called because of events that happened or things that were discovered during their student year. So this long and arduous journey to return to the profession that you obviously loved and were committed to in the Philippines it culminates today with your call as a member of the Law Society of Alberta. As I said, I've had the pleasure of having you appear before me several times, and you have always impressed me with your professionalism and your thoroughness. You've demonstrated a maturity well beyond that of a typical articling student. And it was only when I had the opportunity to speak with you, Mr. Bautista, in preparation for this ceremony and to review your resume, that I understood the foundation of that maturity and that professionalism. You and your wife made a daring and a brave decision when you left your success in the Philippines to pursue your future here in Canada. You've worked extremely hard to achieve your call here today, and I believe the profession in Alberta is enhanced by your decision. I look forward to following your career, and I have every expectation you will continue to serve the public with your strong and ethical commitment to professionalism. So I want to congratulate you here today and wish you and your wife every success in the future. Now, as we discussed, I invite you to take this opportunity to make comments to your friends and family, and you're welcome to remove your mask for that purpose.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor, for giving me this opportunity It was a long and grueling process. The time it took me from taking the NCA exams until getting called to the bar could be likened to someone who went to a Canadian law school for 3 years, then go through articling and CPLED for almost a year, and then the bar call. Of course, minus the expensive tuition fees in law school. My wife, Maureen, has seen me go through ups and downs, my struggles and triumphs, all throughout this process. I'm thankful for you for riding with me in this journey, and I love you. As I look forward to becoming a full-fledged lawyer, allow me to take a look back on all the experiences and the people that I have met along the way. First and foremost to God, who has abundantly blessed me and equipped me with everything I need to be here standing today. To my family, my dad, Benjamin, my mom, Shirley, my sisters, Colleen, Karen May, and Jessamine, who are the best loving family one can have. My family has supported me in every step of the way. Thank you. To Christina Buan, my mom's best friend and my godmother, for standing in as a second mom, not just to me but also for my sisters, for providing financial support when I moved to Canada. To my family in Youth for Christ and Singles for Christ, for always giving me a God-centered friendship and for molding me to become a better big brother to the younger ones. To my batchmates in the Lambda Rho Beta fraternity who stuck with me all throughout law school and after, the best. To my brothers in the 2016 JCI Manila Board of Directors, Rami, Miko, Jobs, Lex, Hans, Lau, Javi, L.A., Jeremy, JP, Marvin, Kelvin, Ruel, and Edison, for allowing me to serve with you in helping Manila a better place to live in and widen my perspective in life. To my 2016 JCI Philippines National Board and Presidents, Steve and Wally in particular, for allowing me to reach greater heights in building a better Philippines with you. I became a full-fledged lawyer in the Philippines in 2008. I have been a practicing corporate lawyer for almost my entire career. When I migrated here in 2017, it sucked because I had to go through the process again. I thought I was done studying and taking the examinations, but it needs to be done, so I just had to do it. Unfortunately, I was alone in this journey because all the people I mentioned are left back home. But I always believe that everything happens for a reason. I started out doing NCA on my own, but with the help of my wife and a few people I will be mentioning, everything just fell into place. Back in 2017, the first person I met was Josh. Both of us were studying at the Edmonton Public Library for the NCA examinations. In 2018, I met Keith after a criminal law examination. He was instrumental in connecting me to my first job in the legal field. Who would have thought that I would again meet Josh in that firm? But it did. To Edmonton Community Legal Center for allowing me to volunteer as an administrative staff. To my principal, Jason, for allowing me to be your student and be taught in the area of criminal law. I told him that of all the areas of law that I'm familiar with, my exposure to criminal law is minimal. Yet he took me in. I am your first articling student, so I hope I live up to your expectations. To Alan, for allowing me to learn family law, thank you so much for everything that you have done for me. To Azar, for allowing me to learn immigration law. For all the Filipino community, you are a very instrumental tool for me. Thank you, Azar. To Tony, for always being there, ready to assist every time I would need your help. To Angus, unfortunately he's not here, for helping me with corporate law and for having a chit-chat when he visited Cebu back then. To Joshua Lloyd, for allowing me to learn civil law. To Cameron, for personally guiding me in criminal law. For all the friends that I have, Tony, the legal assistants who are always there in the office, thank you. Other than being my mentors, I appreciate the friendship that you have all given me. This is something that I will treasure and I will bring with me as I go through this career. Every time I do docket, I always see a lot of students in WebEx. What started as a simple chat conversation with Jordan McDermott led to being invited to a chat group with other articling students doing criminal docket appearances. To the docket guys, thank you for inviting me to your group, and I will learn so much from you. To the other criminal defense lawyers and crown prosecutors I met, thank you for the acquaintance. I appreciate all your assistance in one way or another. To the clerks of court in Edmonton who are very vibrant and kind and have become acquaintances. Shout out to Jenny, Taylor, and Lindsay. and the rest of the clerks of the court. We still have to do a TikTok number, by the way. To my bar call judge, Janet Dixon, when I was asked for a name to preside during my bar call, she was the only one I could ever think of. The reason is simple. She has seen me perform at my worst, she has seen me perform at my best, and she has seen me perform in all other court appearances and in general. She knows me better than any other judge that I appeared on. This all happened because everything fell into place and everything happened for a reason. I know I still have a long way to go and I still have more people to meet, but if there's anything I can say, it is that I'm ready. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bautista. Mr. Ling, may I get you to assist Mr. Bautista in putting his robe on?
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll get you properly dressed now. You look great. All right. Well, thank you for letting me preside on this bar call. I'm very grateful, and it's been a pleasure. I'm going to, normally we would have an opportunity to get together. We're still being cautious about COVID. We'll make it up when, in a few months when things loosen up. But I would invite you, I mentioned before, you have guests here from the Philippines. I would invite you, I'm going to adjourn now, invite you to take a few minutes, mindful of the schedule of Madam Clerk here, who I know is happy to be here, but still has to deal with some other stuff. So I'll adjourn now. Thank you so much, Mr. Bautista, Mr. Leung, and thank you all for coming. And for those of you who joined us at 3 a.m., hang in there for another few minutes, because I want you to have an opportunity to chat with Mr. Bautista. We'll adjourn proceedings today. Thank you so much.
Order in court, all right.
Stand back to the far.
There you go. You can crop it, you know, the resolution's good enough.
Is it though?
It is. Yeah, you can't tell from the phones here.
There, Bob.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Get the crest in there. This is what we need to tell them. There you go. There you go. We got the height in there. Josh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, please. That's the thing. You guys don't have to wear masks.
It's my photography goes with my corporate rate.
Oh, really? I mentioned you twice today.
Actually, it was like 3 or 4 times. You got a billing for every mention.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good.
There you go.
Perfect. I'm sure Tommy's still online. If you want to look in the school camera and say hi.
She doesn't know. Can't see anyone else.
Thank you so much. Who's this?
Okay, so my parking is fire, and then it wouldn't let me re-up. I sent Alana to go fix it though.
But I hope like I'm gonna get it taken care of.
Jakey. Thank you so much. What's there? Bobby. Thank you. Well, I will talk to you soon, okay? Thank you for waking up at 3 a.m.